Okay, I'd like to invite the audience to come up closer and the speakers to come up on this makeshift podium here in front of the North Quarter sign, please. So those of you who have a few words to say can join me up here.
Should we line?
You wanna
Are we
hold this for
passing
me?
the?
Yeah.
We're passing the microphone back and forth.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you so much for coming today as we dedicate these islands and have a ribbon cutting to celebrate both the North Corridor Improvement District and the construction of the water quality islands. We are celebrating 7 water quality islands in this Creston Neighborhood Commercial District. These boulevards have been built with bioretention basins to capture stormwater, which will both water the plants and will beautify this area that we have now named the North Quarter. It is our donors whom we wish to honor today, and we dedicate this project to them. First and foremost, we celebrate their generosity and their commitment to this neighborhood. We celebrate, too, their determination to create a place that enriches us with its beauty as it helps protect the environment that we depend on for healthy living. These islands represent a rebirth of place in the Creston neighborhood. In this newly organized business district, we have now named the North Quarter. I'd like to start by introducing you to Deborah Ide, the Executive Director of the Creston Neighborhood Association, who will share with us the background story explaining how this project evolved. Deborah?
All right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Kelly. At the Neighborhood Association, we're often asked what community organizers do. And our mission really is to connect people with resources as well as opportunities to improve the social, economic, and environmental health of our community. And this project does exactly that. These water quality islands along our Creston and North Quarter Main Street really improve every aspect of our community health. And this day, we are celebrating the success of this hugely grassroots organizing effort, and those are perennial roots, I might add. In 2007, we began to come together as a community to envision and create a design for this Plainfield Avenue and the Creston Business District, one that was attractive to walkers, bikers, locals, visitors, and future business owners and investors. And we sat together as a group creating this vision, which was put down on paper in the form of the Creston Corridor Work Plan. We had neighbors, business owners, City of Grand Rapids planners, many of you are here today, economic development professionals, the Rapid Transit, Grand Rapids area foundations and nonprofits, the public schools were represented, a representative from Vern Ayler's office, and the State of Michigan Department of Transportation office. Those plans were written and we began to focus our efforts on the goals that were envisioned there. Starting in 2008, from 2008 to 2010, we installed 3 public murals up and down the Plainfield corridor, and we continue to attract new businesses. Several of you new business owners are here today. And we supported and grew that volunteer base, those grassroots organizers who are our own business owners here in the crowd today. We also started to talk about that paper vision and looked very closely at what a new streetscape for our area would be for Plainfield Avenue. And today we celebrate the reality of what was once on paper. Mr. Deck Anderzak had seen that paper vision and he was attracted to it, decided to make an investment in the Creston Corridor and bought his building up the street. And when Deck got word of the 2012 plans to improve Plainfield Avenue, he called me and said, "Don't you think that when we're doing a resurfacing project, we should ask everybody involved to start looking for ways to build those boulevards?" He drafted a letter making that request 2 years ago now, and there was only one problem: no gold in the pot to pay for those boulevards. So we had an opportunity, Deck saw that opportunity, but we didn't have the resources. Now, the roots of this business community are very local and sustainable, perennial businesses, if you will. Several of the people here today, Mr. Dwayne Culver, Larry Zeiser, live in the neighborhood. Roger Williams from CarStar Collision, part of this team that brought these islands here today, is also a graduate of the Creston High School. And because of that ongoing commitment, which really began for us many years ago, when after months of phone calls, the city told us we had about 45 days to come up with the match, people stepped forward and we found those resources. The seeds had been planted 5 years before, and they could now sustain this kind of growth. What ensued over that process is really a testimonial to what a unified vision for community can do. And I want to thank you for being here to celebrate this today.
Thanks, Deborah. That was a wonderful capture of our history and how this all got started. We knew that in 2012 that the Plainfield corridor here was going to be resurfaced by MDOT. And we also recognized then that this was the opportune time to do something more to improve this corridor. Greening up the area was not only part of Creston's plan. I see Suzanne Schultz out here, our planning director, and Rosalind Bliss, our commissioner, who are both involved in creating the Green Grand Rapids plan, as were many of you. This project fit with that plan. Dec Andrzak, who we mentioned before, business owner here, resurrected the idea of boulevards in the corridor, but the city had no money for such a project, as we were often reminded by our manager, Greg Sundstrom. When we learned that the boulevards could be built to capture stormwater, however, that there was a plan out there, a design that would do this, we thought we had a project that would capture the imagination of donors. It did, and now we would like to recognize them. So I'd like to introduce Larry Zeiser and Lori Williams, who will recognize our donors.
Hello. Thank you. We do have a plaque to commemorate the 2012 Plainfield Water Quality Islands. The Creston community and the North Quarter of Grand Rapids recognize the pride and commitment of our community embodied in these 7 islands, made possible through the generosity of supporters and these donors.
The Michigan Department of Transportation, the Dyer Ives Foundation, the City of Grand Rapids.
Star Collision CarStar, Creston Medical Center, Fry Foundation, Grand Rapids Community Foundation, Heritage Funeral Home, Sam and Janine Cummings.
The James and Shirley Balk Family Foundation, Kent Country Club, Meyer, the Matson Group of Companies, Graydon's Crossing, Sun Title, Dec and Liz Andrzak, Leo and Ed's Auto Service, Red Jet Cafe, Culver CPA Group, the Griswold Group Incorporated, and Icon Sign.
Mercantile Bank of Michigan, Reservoir, formerly Sazerac Lounge, Commissioner Ruth Kelly and Carl Kelly Jr., Commissioner Rosalind Bliss, CNA with bequeathed to Anne Mary Hirspink, Dr. Jean and Patty Sochtig, Earthbound Inc., Grand Rapids, North Kiwanis, Morrison Family Foundation, Rick Maycroft and Sharon Attar, Stone's Throw, Susan Lewis, Representative Brandon Dillon and Tammy Dillon, Yesterdog,
Kyle and Alyssa Nauman, Bree Stam, George and Susan Hartwell, Cassandra and Scott Younts, Roy Schmidt, Dan Shoemaker, and Deb Wickering. That goes to you.
Thank you, and again, a hand of applause for our donors, our generous donors. I'd really especially like to point out Heritage Funeral Homes, CarStar, and Creston Medical Center, because they reached in deeply to their pockets to donate to this project. Thank you for announcing all the donors, and you'll see that here we have what is a rendition of what will eventually be a bronze plaque that will sit in front of this monument in the triangle here, and that should be up by this fall honoring those donors. We also will soon have signage along the corridor, similar to what you'd see in a state park, that will explain how the water quality islands work. It's an educational piece that we want to share with Creston High School. I see Creston students here, Palmer Elementary School, and Riverside, and hopefully many others who will come to tour the islands. As you can see, the donors understood that this was a commitment that we must not only have now but continue over time. We set aside a $30,000 endowment fund to pay for the maintenance over the next 20 years. So as we look at everything we do in the city, we're thinking about not only how do we pay for it now, but how is it maintained for the future. I would like to introduce now our city manager, Greg Sundstrom, who's going to explain exactly how we were able to raise this money with an innovative funding mechanism. Greg?
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me quickly relay a short story that explains the birth of this genius. A group, Deb, Deck, Larry, Commissioner Bliss, Lori, came to see me and said that they wanted to create a boulevard on Plainfield. And I drive Plainfield every day because I live on the north side. And I said, I actually said, are you crazy? This is just too far out there to even work. And they all looked at me like, what don't you understand? This is a great idea. So the next thing we did is said, we don't have any money. You need to raise the money. And I recall our next meeting, they talked about talking to commissioners to get city money through commissioners and talking for different foundations and grants. And I said, no. If we're going to do this, we're going to build a new model, right? And this group built a new model, and they built a model that works. And in that model, the city of Grand Rapids, we lent our expertise through engineering, through planning, and we put a little bit of seed cash to get it started, if I recall, 30 grand. But the group decided to raise money. And we had several meetings, and it seems like every meeting, Larry would complain that we raised the bar and they needed to raise more money because now you need to have an endowment to make sure that these islands are properly maintained. And then every time, Larry and his team stood up and raised more money. And so the new model here is the city of Grand Rapids wants to be a partner for any neighborhood initiative, but the neighbors have to be engaged. And part of being engaged is putting your money on the line. So the city of Grand Rapids wants to help. We want to make this the new neighborhood model. I know that the city commission purchased some land down in the 3rd Ward, I think, to build a new park. And I don't think they've raised a penny. They're not the Creston Neighborhood. It's different up here. They have raised the money and they made this work. And so I tip my hat to the neighbors and businesses of Creston because I thought we gave you an impossible challenge and you succeeded. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg. I just saw Rachel Hood from WEMIAC here, the West Michigan Environmental Action Council, and I want to thank Rachel for having invited me to a conference on stormwater in Detroit, because really that's kind of what also inspired this. It all came together when we recognized that we had some designs that could capture stormwater. I recognized that it was a real problem in terms of how much we pollute the Grand River and the Great Lakes. It's the #1 source of pollution in the Grand River and the Great Lakes. These islands will capture much of that stormwater and keep it from going into our river. I'd like to now invite our city engineer, Mark DeClercq, up. He's going to give us a brief overview describing how the islands work, but this explanation will be continued on the bus that Dean Transportation has kindly and graciously provided for us free of charge today. We'll take a short tour. It won't take more than 5-10 minutes of the islands, and we'll have a couple of engineers on the bus with us to give us more detail and answer your questions, as will happen as well here when we celebrate at the Red Jet Cafe. Mark?
Thank you. I'd like to recognize individuals on the design and the construction team. Our project engineer, Bree Stam, with our department that work tirelessly with MDOT, our partners, on meeting the deadlines and goals for the plans and specifications during the course of the design. Our consulting engineering firm, Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr and Huber, particularly Elise Tripp, Wendy Ogilvy, and Joe Platty, who worked with Brees in developing a design for construction. Our general contractor, Dykema Excavating, and their subcontractor, Twin Lakes Nursery, who performed a lot of the landscape work with these quality islands. Our city staff, Imelda Martinez and Kim Dixon, who performed the grant writing working with MDOT on securing the grant. Dustin Bestman and John Hayes are the two individuals you probably saw the most out here during construction, worked tremendously with the businesses and the residents in the area. And particularly the Grand Rapids Public Schools, who we had to obtain an easement from for some of our infrastructure up at the Creston High School. Their professional staff and their board worked on the spot with us in obtaining that easement. We thank them for that. Like Commissioner Kelly said, there's seven water quality islands to capture stormwater and allow infiltration into the subsoils below. And just to put it in perspective, they treat about 3.3 acres, total acres of area, of watershed area, that flow into the water quality islands. In a 1-inch storm rainfall event, they treat approximately 90,000 gallons of water. The water quality islands have a special soil for the plants that it supports. The plants are drought resistant and also resistant to road salt, so that was special in the design. Like Commissioner Kelly mentioned, they're going to have interpretive signage up and down the corridor in order to help explain how they work, and for students and for others, it becomes a real good platform for other designs like this within the city. I'd like to, on behalf of the engineering department, really express our thanks in being able to serve the Creston Business Association and the neighborhood in the design of this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. A lot of people have already been mentioned, but I do want to acknowledge just groups. The support of the city engineering department, the finance department to set up our plan and be the fiduciary for the deferred payment plan that we've all been making payments on. Our streets department for handling really well the information about closing the streets during the construction project. WEMAC, of course, and I see Dan Schoonmaker here is here, and he'll be a resource too later on if you want to ask a little bit about the stormwater problem and the pollution of the river. He's a neighbor and a donor as well. From MDOT, there were so many people that in many, I know Mark mentioned, and Mike Smith is here, and he's going to speak in a minute. Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber, who did the landscaping for us and worked with our construction engineering group, and of course the fundraising team, Lori Williams, Larry Zeiser, Deck Andrzak, Deborah Ide, Kim Dixon, our city grant writer who's here, and myself. Thanks too to Grand Rapids Public for working with us to get the easements that were necessary and to help make the connection to get the bus today to take us up and down the islands for a tour. Note that this project also calms traffic, and part of what we did was get a Safe Routes grant from MDOT as well. That will be put into place next year, and we'll have another celebration about that, but that was to provide safe passage in this corridor for the Palmer School students. Thanks too to Creston Neighborhood Association and Business Association. They've been tremendously supportive and very close partners for so many years, and it's those relationships that really helped pull this together and created the trust that made this project happen. I know that Captain McWaters is here somewhere, and it's time, Captain, to let the police officers know. We're going to close off the street right here, do a very quick ribbon cutting because we don't want angry drivers. We want happy drivers along Plainfield. So we'll do that, and I'd like to invite the donors as soon as he gives us the signal that it's ready. Our city manager and Mike Smith from MDOT as well as our fundraising team to cross over the street. And we're going to do a quick construction ribbon cutting. And after that, then we can load the bus. The bus is prepared to make 2 tours. We've got lots of people here. They won't take long. And Red Jet Cafe is ready to provide us some refreshments afterwards, too. This is their normal happy hour. So now Mike, where's Mike? All right, Mike Smith from MDOT is going to speak now and talk about their contribution.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly and Deb, I love hearing the backstory that led up to the project before I got involved, which is just when the city made the grant application. It was just around Christmas last year, and they called asking about eligibility and competitiveness, and you know, they said there's this local group that's just really, really crazy about this idea. What are we going to do? And I said, well, water quality improvements like this can be eligible, and they might be competitive. It might be a good project. You know, we weren't sure. I said it's not something we see very often, and you're going to have to show somehow that you really think this idea is going to work before we're really going to invest in it. But the city said, look, this is really important. Let's do it. Let's try. So we had state water quality experts and engineers. We did back and forth for several weeks around Christmas and in the beginning of January, working with the city and with their application and with their drawings and ideas for how this could work over here. And within a week or two, the city had proved their case successfully to the state. So this story has 2 main parts that I want you to remember. We have not funded this kind of design concept before. This is a pilot. Our best people thought we should fund this and we should get some real life data from it over the next few years that we can apply to the rest of the state. So we're pretty excited about that and watching how this works. It's not surprising to me that it's Grand Rapids because this is a city that's known for being able to deliver and being on the cutting edge. Yes. The other of the 2 main parts, besides it being a pilot project, as you've heard today quite a lot now, is that this local share of the cost didn't only come from the city, but specifically from you, the residents and businesses, and some local foundations. From my statewide perspective, this is a unique story that really needs to be heard. That's why I came here today. That's what we want to show. You're taking pride in making a real difference in your community. And while funds are drying up everywhere else, and I see projects struggling for funding all over the state, you said, no, we really do want this to happen. We're going to roll our sleeves up, figure it out, put our money where our mouth is, as you've heard others mention already too. So here we are again in Grand Rapids with another cutting-edge project paid for by a distinctive public-private partnership that contributes toward a sense of place in this community. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mike. Now, it looks like our police officers have closed off the street, so donors, please join fundraisers and all the supporters who've worked on this project to step out into the street for ribbon cutting. And then we'll start boarding the bus for the tour. Thank you.